The notice that was posted was simply your proxy, and, they posted one outside City Hall, and I went to the Florence Library and they posted. We used to run it in the Florence Citizen, but we don't have paper anymore, and they changed the bylaws that we would just have to post it rather than put it in the newspaper. We could have put it in the Daily Record, but we don't live in Canyon, so. And all it is a notice of the annual stockholders meeting. It gives us the date and time and place, and it's to elect a board of directors and levy assessments for maintenance and paying obligations of the company, and then any other business that happens to come up. So, and everybody should have got one of these, so they get mailed out 30 days ahead of time.
Thank you. Last year's annual meeting was held January 23rd of 2024. Could you read the minutes of last year's meeting, please?
Okay, you should have a copy in your packet. I won't read it verbatim, but, it was called to order by, Chad Oneth. We had a quorum, and so the meeting could proceed. We read the minutes from the 2023 annual meeting, and there was one correction. It was reported that 1 share of water equals 0.004 CFS, and that was corrected to read 1 share equals 0.002 CFS. Then a financial statement was presented, and that was approved. Joe Henry gave a brief report for the 2023 ditch season. The usual maintenance work was done on the ditch. A leak in the ditch off of Dewey Street was fixed. A plan for Freya Bradford's property was made, and it was waiting for approval. And then he did the usual maintenance and removal of brush and trash to be done in 2024. Additional business, the main head gate off of the canal is leaking and needs repair. Fred Adamick discussed at length an issue of not being able to get water to his property on West 4th Street. It'd been a known issue for quite some time, and the blockage was unknown. So Chad agreed to go with him, and they were gonna look at it and see if they could figure out where maybe the source of the problem was. Some possibilities mentioned were to run a camera through the ditch, or maybe some high pressure jetting. So nothing was decided at the meeting, but they went and looked at it. Dan Cornella reported a pile of twigs and trash behind the Dollar General, and Joe will go get that cleaned up. Freya Bradford turned in an estimate for fixing the ditch through her property, and that was approved. Chris Bracken reported beaver ponds on the ditch. It's on the side where the Gradall isn't used. So Evraz had cleared that out in 2023. Jessica Clayton said she'd send Chris a phone number for someone who may be able to relocate the beavers. Gail McKinnon introduced a Pioneer Museum project. They want to put a culvert behind the museum. The ditch company needs a professional engineer to sign off on the design, and then the project could be approved. Nomination for the board of directors was made after a brief discussion, and the board elected was Chad Oneth, Jessica Clayton, Amy Nasta, Brandon Angel, and Dixie Wright. Then the budget for 2024 was presented with proposals for assessments to remain the same, and a 3.2% cost of living increase for salaries. The budget was approved. Delinquent accounts were discussed next, and those that were still delinquent at the end of June would be sent a delinquent letter and advertised for sale in July if not paid. And that's a little process. We did do that, but I got the notices out a little bit late, but then, you know, they get 30 days and then it's in the paper for another month, so it takes a while. And then with no further business, the meeting was adjourned.
Thank you. Any additions or corrections to the 2024 annual meeting minutes?
Move to approve the minutes.
Our motion to approve the minutes, do I have a second?
Second.
Second, thank you. The 24 annual meeting minutes are approved. Let's move on to the financial statement for the year ending 2024.
Okay, the next two pages, is the way the year ended in December. The income statement, shows the income that we had that came in, totaled about $59,400. And then it lists our expenses. And our expenses ended up to be $64,400. So, we ended with a net loss of about $5,000. But we did, the big expenses were, a jetting project to find that, place where the ditch was, clogged. And that was $3,100 we spent on that. And then, FRIA's estimate came in a little bit higher, than what we had budgeted for, but, that was approved and we paid that. So, on the next page, it shows that we have, $79,900 in the bank at the end of the year. And we still have a savings account that has around $19,700 in it. If there's any questions, you can read over the expenses.
Any additions or corrections to the financial statement for the year ending 2024? Okay, if none, do I have a motion to approve the financial statement as presented?
Motion to approve.
Okay, have a second, please? Thank you. All right, financial statement for 2024 is approved as presented. Joe, could you provide us a report on the condition of the ditch?
That, their due FRIA's, get some trees out of our place this year. Last year we didn't get a whole lot done, couldn't find anybody that wanted to work. This year we're gonna do FRIA's, the trees, we got, a sinkhole in the alley, that's an alley.
We can't hear you.
Can you stand
We
up?
can't hear you at all.
Stand up. Yeah, there you go.
Sam, what is that alley back there? Is that an alley or just another road? Yeah, we got a sinkhole back there. I've got another, estimate today, and we got three, yeah, sold total, runs from very expensive to very cheap. Got a retaining wall on 4th Street that I'm gonna do R&R2, and then normal cleaning of the ditch, pulling out the dead animals and batteries and whatever else that anybody puts in there. That's what I know of that be done anyway. If anybody else has got some other complaints that needs to be done. Sure.
Yeah.
Hold on, before we go there, you need anything else on your report?
Yeah.
You're good?
Yep.
Finished, thank you.
The bulkhead at the end of Union Ditch by Rainbow Park Ditch 3 has been leaking for years, and we've been requesting for years that that be repaired.
Okay.
Okay. Other new business people would like to bring up and discuss?
Real quick, I was gonna mention to Joe, they're having a problem with skunks over behind where that, what's it called?
The brewery?
Yeah, the brewery. And they did, go in, Joe went with them and gave permission to trap. And, I guess they did catch something. And she said the smell's getting better. But I don't know how you deal with this. She thinks there's people down there.
They had trap them.
Well,
I was
she,
just gonna put up a fence, to keep them out.
she called me about 2 days ago. And, I guess that there was a hole down there and they repaired that hole. But the guy that went down there and set the traps, he doesn't think the animals made that hole. He thinks that was made by somebody or people. And he said there's like newer water bottles down there and stuff. So I wonder if we have somebody trying to live down there.
Possibly.
So what do we do? Put up no trespassing signs or?
Put up a human trap.
But it's pretty dangerous. I mean, I saw pictures of what,
Yeah, it's nasty.
oh, it's awful. So, anybody know what we do in situations like that?
Are you the police involved? I'll talk to them.
Okay.
Put up a sign, no trespassing.
Is that
Yeah.
under the brewery?
I've done that before.
Yeah, let's get a sign up. We'll talk to
I'll talk to Chief.
She just thought she should let us know, and I said, well, I'm glad you did.
Where is that?
Center.
Pikes Peak.
Yeah, Peter Pikes Peak. On between the museum and the brewery.
Okay, we'll open the floor up for concerns. Yes, ma'am?
Nancy Grimes on Cyanide, the old Larry Schmidt place, and that should explain it. The embankment is starting to give way a little bit more, and I would think it is a concern. The only thing that's holding it up is T-posts, and they're like this.
And say the location again, please?
336 Cyanide, Larry Schmidt's. So, just take a look at it.
Okay, very good, thank you. Other items?
I have a whole laundry list, so I'll wait for you guys.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, just Kevin with the Florence Reporter. So just want to clarify, we do have a newspaper in town. And I know Miss Nasta is aware of the newspaper existing. I know Mr. Angel's aware of the newspaper existing. We publish notices on behalf of the John C. Fremont Library District, Penrose Library District,
I love that.
the Fire Protection District. So we've been around this is our 3rd year. So just want to make that known to,
Okay, how do I get a hold of you?
I can get you my contact information.
Please.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was so sad when we lost the newspaper.
Yeah.
I was a big advocate for it.
Yeah.
So,
Very good, thank you.
Mhm.
Others, concerns? Yes, sir.
Steve Andrews with the Rainbow Ditch. We've had questions about the number of Union Ditch customers who are located below the weir where we take readings. The weir is at, it's just near the Carls. Junior's just upstream from that.
In the Continental Yard, right?
We're
Yes.
unsure of the number of customers who are downstream from that weir
Mhm.
and the number of shares as well as their frequency that they're allowed to take water. So, I don't know if that's been brought up to you before, but it would be something about which I think our team would like to have a little clarity.
You've got a great proponent from Rainbow Park on this board.
I know,
So,
I probably took a little thunder,
no,
but,
that's great. So the shares, after the Rainbow Park flume, Rainbow Park holds 4,287. Dan Cornella has 300, the Methodist Church has 2, and Jesus Trujillo holds 9.
could you say that again? I'm sorry. Dan Cornell owns 300?
300. The Methodist Church has 2, and Jesus Trujillo holds 9, for a total of 4,598 shares after the Rainbow Park flume.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
some people put into
Yeah.
Well, I'll just add to that, Rainbow Park historically has not received our full share of water, and so in 2024, we received a grant from the Fremont Conservation District to install an automatic flume reader, and so we will have daily readings, I believe it's every 5 to 10 minutes actually, of how much water we're getting, and so we're very concerned that, there our shareholders that are taking more than their allotted share. And for the record, our ditch rotation is once every 3 to 5 weeks, depending on what ditch we're on. So for me, for example, I'm at the very tail end of ditch 3. I get water once every 5 weeks. So I know a lot of you get to pull your water daily. And so our hope in getting the automatic flume readers, we can start to balance out where the water is going.
Where do you install?
Yep, can I say something out there? Cause I'm Dan Colonel, I live down there. And I seen it time in, time out, just those tweers that's going down there, those boxes that's had the cover on. I seen them in the summer just wasting water, water's boiling out of it. I don't know if you guys are not turning on the water down there, or you're backing it up or something, cause water's pouring out there. Down there by Dave Patch down there. It's through that line on the other side of Big D's.
East of Big D, right?
Yeah, well, starting right there behind Big D's and going down, especially just a little bit east of Big D's.
I know the
That-
box you're talking about, and that's, it's supposed to be closed and bolted shut, so how it got opened and kicked open and left open, that's anyone's guess.
Okay, then,
I can go and bolt it back shut again. I noticed there's been some earthworks back there done to try to utilize extra water that's been coming out, but those boxes were designed to be bolted shut and kept shut, and there's even seals on them to prevent water backflow.
I'll disagree with you that they had them when they first put them in, tight as could be. I was called from work one day, it was blowing out seals, it was busting the pipe. You could see it coming up out of the ground. You get that amount of pressure in those pipes, it ain't gonna hold it.
All right, well, I'll keep an eye out when
You
we
know,
get
because
water.
that happened. And I told them way down there further, open up one of those boxes to relieve that pressure. Cause water, the one right there, Big D, it pours out there like crazy. If that water backs up.
You know, I believe you, and I'd
Yeah.
like to see it, but if we could get a consistent flow of water
Right.
at one, you know, the same volume every day, then it'd be really easy to set that and make sure it happens and it's good. When the water disappears in the middle of the night and it's not there, you know exactly what I'm talking
Right,
about when it
right.
drops down and it's gone.
You're right.
You know, how do you set our head gates to plan for that, you know?
Right,
And so, you know, it's a volume issue, it's a hydraulic issue. It's, you know, I'm not an engineer to figure out, you know, how much volume's going down a pipe or not.
Because I
but-
know if they tighten up those boxes, you're gonna bust that big old pipe coming all the way up there.
Well, I mean, maybe a vent needs to be installed, but I know those boxes need to be closed up so animals and stuff don't climb in
yeah.
there as well, so. And I'm happy to go down there and bolt it shut and keep it shut,
Yeah.
so.
You know, as long as it don't bust those pipes and blows out seals.
Just real quick, just so we're all on the same page, it's 7 shares of Rainbow to 1 of Union.
Correct.
So what's the math on the 4,000 or whatever shares? What are you guys looking for that you think you're not getting?
So it'd be 4,000 times 0.002.
Like a foot and a half of water, 1.1, 1.2 or something? Okay.
But then, so Dan Cornella, Chad's saying that there are 3 shareholders past the Rainbow Park Flume, but you lease water to other people.
Up above, we lease that maybe around 12 shares.
And how do we regulate how much water those 12 shares are pulling at whatever time they're pulling?
0.002.
But how do we make sure they're doing that? And
Superintendent.
Cause I know all the water that we use down there up on my shares, everything goes through water meters.
You have a meter? at
Oh,
your-
regular water meters, right. And I only use somewhere about 35,000 water per day, and I can use over 300,000. But I had no use for it, so you're getting almost 2/3 of my water down there.
I would disagree. I think that your pipe is probably oversized for the amount of shares you have.
Well, you can put in a twir, and if they ever put in a twir, I will take the full 300.
Yeah,
Okay,
minus the 12.
huh?
Minus the 12 that you're.
Oh, yeah, right, yep. Okay.
One share, 0.9 GPM. So.
gallon bucket every 5 minutes.
One share can use 1,296 gallons a day. Make sense? All right, so let's go back to this, the Rainbow Park. That's the only flume on the ditch from the head gate, right?
Correct.
And who's that belong to? Is that Rainbow Park's flume?
I believe it is.
Is it? I'll have to look at that.
It's registered to Rainbow Park through the state, I believe, the flume is.
All right. Maybe some more to check on that. Okay. Other items to bring up? All right.
So with the blowout at the alley by the water station, what is that? Squirrel Creek? Oak Creek?
Oak Creek.
I had
Coal
something
Creek.
to
Coal
work.
Creek.
Coal Creek, we've gotten some pretty expensive bids, and it seems like the bylaws are outdated, so that we're only meeting 2 times a year. So the board is meeting once in December to approve the budget, and once in January for our annual meeting with you guys. So we're not meeting throughout the rest of the year. How are we approving these large projects? And so I would like to propose amending the bylaws to have board approval for repairs over a certain amount. And, so for example, one of the bids we got to repair the blowout is $90,000. And so we can't really have one person say, go ahead and approve this, and we've been communicating. I don't want you guys to think that we're not communicating. I think that with more of these, items coming up, like the bank that's being held up by 2x4s, there are a lot of repairs that are coming, and we should be able to have language in the bylaws to approve larger projects.
Right, you mean for the board to
Mhm.
approve it? I think we can, or you can. I think you can anyway, I think it's in there. But I'm not gonna swear to it. It's been a while. I was invested in Fremont here not too long ago, so I might be getting it too crossed.
Do you have a dollar amount you're thinking?
What do you think, anything over 5,000
Requires what?
requires board approval?
Board approval as opposed to what? I'm not following.
As opposed to having projects happen, without all the board involved. So the scoping and, backing project, I was unaware of that.
The scoping and what?
And backing project,
Less, who was that? Who we, from your minutes?
Water jetting?
Yeah, the water jetting under duty.
but honestly, it wouldn't be such an issue if we met more frequently. So originally, when the ditch was incorporated, the board met once a year, or once a month. And at some point in the early 2000s, this was changed to meeting once a year and having an annual meeting. So we only are required to meet twice a year by the bylaws. I would also like to propose a change to, the bylaws that we meet at least 6 times a year, so that we can discuss projects and issues on the ditch. I know that people don't wanna meet once a month, and that's okay, but definitely before the water season starts, during the season, and after it's over, we need to be meeting. So I'd also like to propose that we amend the bylaws to meet 6 times a year. And for the record, there are only 2 people up here who are not paid to be here. Everybody else is paid to be here. I'm a volunteer, so I'm not getting paid to to attend these meetings.
I don't think that's true. I don't think any of us are being paid under
Well, you work for Everest, did you take vacation time?
a year. We hold the majority of interest here, so I'm going to be here to
Yeah.
protect our.
I took vacation time to be here today, or you're probably not taking vacation time to be today, correct?
We could work around when you can be here.
No, I just think we need to meet more. I just don't want people to think that I wanna meet more to get paid, or
I think what we used to do, COVID threw a wrench in everything, I'll be honest with you. But we used to meet pretty faithfully 4 times a year. Can't exactly tell you when it was, but I know the annual meeting and then the end of year meeting, and then twice in between. And that actually seemed sufficient. And we did talk at our meeting that for sure we're gonna meet in July. So. And we can call a meeting at any time that, is needed.
we can, I just think that with the ditch aging and these, like, there's no reason that we shouldn't have known about this blowout.
Is there a motion?
I make a motion to change the bylaws to meet 6 times a year.
I second it.
I consider 4.
Consider for. What dates are you thinking?
End of the year in December. Our members meeting in January. I think we need to touch base realistically, probably in February, to see what has, before the water turns on and what we have to scramble to fix. And I think, what do you think, after water season, to see what needs to be fixed after the season's over? With the stipulation that if any big project comes up over, I think 5,000 is overly generous, really. I think if us as shareholders and the ditch is gonna spend more than, I'd go as far to say $1,500. If we're going to, as a company, spend more than $1,500, I think the board of directors needs to protect the interests of our shareholders and spending money wisely. So, I think I'd make the motion then to
Wait a
amend the
minute.
bylaws,
There was a motion.
There's already a motion.
and I didn't pass. Motion didn't pass. We got a second, voted, didn't pass. Majority of the shareholders did not vote on that.
Well, how about we meet in the middle and meet 5 times a year, January, February, July, after the ditch shuts off November, and then our budget meeting in December. Midsummer, talk about whatever issues are happening.
We have discussion? Anything to bring up? No? Okay, so we have a motion to meet.
So I make a motion to amend the bylaws to meet 5 times a year in January, February, July, November, and December.
Second?
July, December,
November and December. Cause the water is still going in October.
What will we do at the November meeting that will be done in the December meeting?
Water's just going off. So it'll be fresh on everybody's mind.
I think September would be better than November.
and why meet in July?
So we can talk about any issues that are happening during the watering season.
We have a second on that, right?
I second.
Second. I'm gonna stick to 4 times a year.
Are we all voting 5 times a year? Or is it-
Yes, controlling.
Have
I
control
just
of
vote,
interest.
so
and that's why our fees are so low also.
The ditches that we work with, they normally meet quarterly. I think quarterly is reasonable.
That's 4 times.
In all fairness, the
Because-
multiple ditches that we are a part of meet quarterly.
Yeah, that
I
makes
think
sense.
that is fair. Meet
Plus, we
each
can
quarter, I'll call it
always
good.
call a meeting at any time, at a meeting.
Your quarter 4 meeting can be November, December, you decide. Quarter 1 is obviously the annual meeting. Pick a quarter 2, pick a quarter 3, go for it.
Do you need a second on your 4? I do. Okay.
Does that not include the budget meeting?
The budget meeting would be
Budget meeting
Q4.
Is, yeah, quarter 4 in December. So we
Just
want-
for the record, the Rainbow Ditch meets monthly.
Okay.
Noted.
So April, January, April,
I do think we should, I mean, we can discuss the actual dates. I think we amend the bylaws to say 4 times a year. And any major expenditure over $1,500 ordinance, whether it's, virtually or in person, or we need to meet to discuss to protect the interest of the shareholders.
Wait a minute here, hold it. For planning purposes, wouldn't you want to specify in your motion second Monday or third Monday or something like that, so people know what days to pick to be here? Rather than just wing it as you go along, I think they should specify some regularity.
Set a date.
You wouldn't need a set a date, you would say something that sounds like second Monday or first Wednesday.
Tuesdays are fixed for me.
I can do anything I want, so I'm available
You're
any day.
good anytime.
Cool when you get old. Nobody can tell you where you have to be and when you.
Okay, so we wanna amend the motion then to meet 4 times a week, but we'd like to specify a date.
4 times a year.
I'm
4
sorry.
times a year.
4 times a week.
4 times a week. If you want to meet 4 times a week, hey.
Well, like, is the December meeting specified? No, only
The annual meeting is the 4th week in January of each year. Okay? So do we wanna say February? When do we wanna meet in February? Second week?
I thought we were doing quarterly.
4 times a year. That way, my thought is, let's have discussion on this, we meet to make sure if we gotta do any last panel repairs or things that didn't get done before the water turns on, that gets taken care of.
When does the water get turned on? March. I thought it was. Yes, February.
Second week, so we said,
Second Tuesday.
second Tuesday in February?
Okay.
Our annual meeting.
So annual meeting stays.
I know, but
Yeah,
isn't the second
that's
week in
2 weeks
February
later.
too
2
close?
weeks later.
Yeah,
You could go to the 4th week in
I don't think
February.
anybody's gonna know much different in 2 weeks.
If something comes up, does that give you enough time though, Joe? If we meet the 4th week of February, that gives you basically a week to have any outstanding.
Third week.
3rd week?
Yeah.
Okay. So the 3rd Tuesday in February? Okay. And then we talked about after the water season?
So, well, you got December, January, I mean, you had to do it quarterly, so it'd be every 3 months, and
4 times a year.
I think August sounds good.
August?
Before the water's off, then we can see what issues are happening in real time.
Okay, I mean, that's reasonable. You wanna do the third Tuesday in August too?
Okay.
Instead of July, do August.
And then, what about December?
Whatever we did last time. Or-
That's like December 19th, but I think, weren't you sick? So we pushed it up. So our original date got pushed up because Chad had COVID.
Should we just keep it the third Tuesday so there's no confusion if anybody wants to attend?
Third Tuesday in December. All right, so I have our amended motion, meeting 4 times per year with the dates of the 4th week of January for the annual stockholders meeting here. 3rd Tuesday in February, prior to water getting turned on and addressing last minute issues. The 3rd Tuesday of August to review what has happened during the water season, and then the 3rd Tuesday of December to review kind of the year-end rate. That's our amended motion. Do we have a second for that?
Second.
All right. We'll pass. We're gonna meet more.
Yay!
All right.
Okay, I have one more thing. So I don't wanna adjust any more bylaws, but I would.
Sorry, Jessica,
Oh,
go ahead.
sure.
We also had a motion on the table to approve spending over a certain limit.
Correct.
So I would like to make a motion that the board needs to meet to approve any spending over $1,500, whether virtual or in person.
I second that.
Second? All right, great. Thank you all.
Does it need to be amended, does it?
I don't think so. All right. Sorry, Jessica.
That's okay. Okay, so, as 501c12s, not-for-profits, we fall under the nonprofit rules, and those rules state that committees can be created under the nonprofit. And I would like to ask for board approval to create a committee that would have 2 functions. One would be to conduct an audit of the ditch. We need to identify who's pulling water and from where. We have maps of delivery points that are very outdated. We have lists of shareholders that some of them only have the address of, some of them only have a mailing address, and we do not have delivery addresses for all of our shareholders. So that is going to be a large process. And we also need to identify who's pulling water that does not own shares in Union Ditch. And we need to update our maps. And then secondly, I've been in conversations with the city about a water sharing plan. I will let Amy speak to that, but there are grants out there through the Colorado Water Conservation Board to develop water plans so that we can use our water efficiently, we can stop the dry up of agricultural land, and identify ways to share agricultural water with the city so it doesn't get turned specifically to municipal water. Currently, the city of Florence requires that anyone requesting a new tap outside of city limits has to supply a Union Ditch share. And they're also outbidding people who are trying to purchase Union Ditch shares. This is not sustainable. So as part of this committee, I would like to have volunteers help out with the water sharing plan process. So if anybody would like to join, if it is approved by the board, please let me know.
Okay, so we have 2 things there. Form a committee to essentially audit.
Correct.
Who's pulling, where, and how much,
Correct.
as one motion?
As
Or do you
one
wanna-
committee, but
one
those
committee?
would be the goals of the committee
Perfect.
for water conservation.
So we have a motion to form a committee to essentially audit the water usage on the ditch. Do we have a second for that? I'll second that. Okay, that motion passes. And we had a second motion, developing a water sharing plan committee, to develop a water sharing plan with the city. Is that-
Correct, and I realize that might be a long process with the city. I'll let Amy speak, but we might have to go to city council, is what I'm assuming.
It would need to go to city council, however, and I don't know if this is appropriate for this meeting or if this is an offline, because the city is not the ditch. We are simply a shareholder on the ditch, so I don't want to get that conflated with the meeting about the business of the ditch with the city meeting. Or with the ditch meeting and the city's business. After speaking with our municipal water attorney, though, he does advise against city involvement in collaborative water sharing agreements at this time, based on the city's current and projected future water needs. The city currently has fewer water shares than we would require were all previously promised taps to be installed and utilized. While our water needs are currently being met, we're concerned that projected future needs must be accounted for moving forward and cannot speculate on when private developments of those previously promised taps may occur. While the current developers of these properties may not be making significant progress on their developments, said developments could be sold to a new developer at any time, and this could change. The situation makes it ill-advised for the city to enter into blanket water sharing agreements at this time. The city's position is not to buy up any shares available with no consideration for their future usefulness to the city's water supply and water needs. The city's position is to protect the interests of its water supply and allow for future development. The city takes great pride in the fact that we're currently in a relatively secure position with our drinking water supply, something not all communities have the luxury of. As this is one of our community's most important resources, we cannot understate the value of owning and maintaining full control of all the shares we believe we will need for both today and the future. So our position is not to buy up every share in Union Ditch, it's to ensure that we have enough for the development that taps have already been promised for. And all of those go through adjudication, they go through dry up process, and we currently don't pull the full amount that we're allotted at any time, basically. Even if we're pumping at full capacity, we are still 0.6 under our full allotment. So we do not pull the full allotment at any time at this point.
When the city acquires a share, is there any coordination between Union Ditch and the city to confirm that that shareholder, has water, and is in compliance and is actually deliverable? Because a lot of the properties are non-deliverable. And so is the city buying shares that aren't actually active? Are they confirming that they are shares, and who's going back and making sure that that shareholder is no longer pulling water that they sold? Because the shares are disappearing very quickly at an exorbitant rate, and I just want to make sure that they're good quality shares that are being bought by the city.
Sure, Corlin, you may be able to speak better to this, but all of our shares go through adjudication through Water Corp. So they all go through a legal process to ensure that they have water, they have the appropriate dry ups, that everything is appropriate with them. So they all go through adjudication at Water Corp.
Yes, we definitely don't, follow up on when we purchase a share from a shareholder, because we determine if the water is coming off the land through a dry up covenant that we have in our regional water agreements and ultimately through Water Court. But we don't determine if the shareholder then still pulls, because obviously that's illegal, so that's something we don't have means to monitor or mitigate.
And the thing is, and I told Craig on the phone, the issue I see with a lot of this is shares aren't tied to a certain property. So if, say I had 5 shares of water and I wanted a water tap and I sold it to City of Florence, well, I'm not drying up my property. I still have 4 shares I can use, or I can sell to the person down the street or over across the highway, as long as they can pull from Union Ditch. So I told Craig his whole dry up thing, I understand what they're doing, but I don't see how we can track that. Because somebody could buy a house that somebody sold a Union share off of, and maybe they acquire another Union share. And then they're using that there, and they said that property was dried up. Does that make sense? Makes sense in my head, but.
I think once it goes through adjudication and is dried up, it can only use municipal water from that point on. But I see what you're saying.
Yeah, but I don't know if they purchase a share and they've got the lateral running in front of their house, you know, I don't know.
Well,
But
that's
if
where
I
the
historically
comes in.
pull 5 shares of water and then I sell 3, who's gonna stop me from pulling 5 more shares? Or, you know, continually to pull 5 shares, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah, nobody.
You know, I mean, it's not a worthless resource, in fact, it's becoming more and more valuable daily, it seems like, so.
No, I understand what
I'd
you're
like to
saying.
know that there's some eyes on all of our assets, you know? And it might not be attached to everyone's property, but most of us, I'm sure it is, right? And these are agricultural shares. These are specifically to be put to use, you know, agriculturally. These aren't municipal, they're not industrial. So that's why we're here and concerned about that.
A lot of
because-
our information actually comes from neighbor to neighbor, you know? I mean, old days, it used to be, you knew what your neighbor used, your neighbor knew what you used.
Well, and that's,
You knew what was available
those days are
to
gone, you know, and so
those days are gone, exactly.
amendments should be made to quantify that, you know?
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying.
Well, and to circle back too, I think Jessica's motion for a audit is a really good idea, because I think that that would kind of secure a lot of our doubts, and if we can aid in any of our resources as far as historical data, we're happy to share, so.
How many shares do you think you need?
We are going through the process with that right now with the walk court adjudication and such, but it would depend on future development, but we are slightly short of everything that has been promised. Most of that is based on 2 large developments that haven't shown much forward movement at this time, but they could always be sold to another investor who may build them very quickly. If they were sold to like a Hanover Homes or a Pulte or one of those large builders, I'd anticipate those would be done very quickly. Don't have any word of that being done, so not making a statement about that, but we don't have control over if that occurs or not. They still have promised water. And my job is to protect the interests of the city. We can't leave them without the water that's promised to them and then leave our municipal water supply short.
But as a board member, you are also legally required to protect the interests of the ditch company also. So.
I don't think that those are at odds with one another. You're asking us as the city to enter into a collaborative water sharing agreement, and my stance as the representative for the city is the city's water attorney has advised that we do not display an interest in that at this time.
All right,
That's all I have.
so we had a motion to start a committee to look at begin a water sharing plan between the city of Florence and the Union Ditch. Right, we had that motion out here. We have a second on that motion.
I second it.
I don't think you can.
Oh, okay.
Kind of, sorry, conflicting interests there. but-
Second.
Second, okay. I guess we'll pass the motion, but I guess it's part of the city willing to agree to enter this, and it sounds like at this point, it's on hold.
And to be clear, we're willing to have discussion about it, just wanted to make a statement of what our water
That's the
attorneys have
starting point
advised.
of it.
Yes.
I think the next step is, going to city council and having the next discussion.
Is there a way to, I noticed it was pretty repetitive, I did read through that thing, that it said, just out of curiosity. To shorten it and make it more precise. I don't know.
I could probably find something.
Yeah, and 48 pages was a lot, and it was repetitive.
Yeah.
So,
I think real quick too, if Union Ditch is going to pursue that, we need legal counsel for Union Ditch.
Okay, so, I have been in conversations with DARCA. DARCA is the Ditch and Reservoir something alliance. I'm sorry, I don't know the full acronym, but, asking if they could provide resources. They put me in contact with an engineer who would be willing going to come to city council to discuss from the water sharing plan point of view, and then also at some point we could get grants, which would pay for the lawyer and the engineer.
Okay. Yeah, we don't wanna go blind into
No,
that.
yeah.
Good point. All right. Any other new business we should bring up?
Is anyone from the Dr. B here?
Okay.
Where?
The Dr.
B.
Oh, that you said the doctor. Sure.
Okay. Thank you all for the input. We will now move on to the Board of Director positions for 2025. We do have an open position on the board.
Could I make a comment?
Yes?
That the Union Ditch, especially going through my property, I have 2 properties adjoining, so it's maybe 1,000 feet or more. And anyway, it has been falling down, and since Chad took over, we're getting things fixed.
Thank you.
And that's like, hello, you know, I've been wanting this for years.
I feel the same. My job's been a whole lot easier.
Thanks. Appreciate that. All right, so back, Board of Directors, we do have an open position on the board. Dixie Wright, who's been a very long time board member, has resigned. So this is now, after that great discussion we just had, I know everybody's super excited to volunteer. But I'd like to accept some nominations to fill a vacant board member role for 2025.
Nominate Orland Camerlo.
Does he happen to be here?
Yep.
Great. Orland, can you, I mean, we're not gonna make you stand up and give a speech, but tell us what your interests are in the ditch.
I really like meetings, so now that we've doubled that on. Well, I have a farm in western Fremont County. I'm an irrigator. I've dealt with the state of Colorado. I know division engineers. Water's been in my family since the 1800s in this valley, including Wetmore and Florence. Unfortunately, we lost those shares at the Camarillo Dairy, but I have a keen interest in continuing to support the Union Ditch being viable for the long term. I have a business background, so I'm gonna take it on from an entrepreneurship sort of perspective if I get nominated. So, you know, have a loose understanding of the Colorado doctrine because I've studied the statutes, but I'm not a lawyer.
Perfect, thank you.
I have shares. Yeah, I have shares on 3rd Street.
I'll second that.
I move that we keep the 4 of you and add him.
Before we go there, Carl. one
I second it.
Hold on, everybody, slow down a minute. Any other nominations? We have to ask for that first. Okay, hearing none, I hear a second from Jessica. Any other discussion? Congratulations, welcome to the board.
We'll see how that goes.
See how long you have Brandon stayed friends.
All right, now, Kyle, if we could do that, could I have any other nominations for the board positions currently held by members? No. Nomination for a white ballot then?
So moved.
Thank you. Second, keeping all current board members in position?
Second.
Thank you. All right, the board of directors with the addition of Orland will be in place for the 2025 year. Thank you for your support. All right, now moving on to the proposed 2025 budget.
Okay, that will be the next page in your packet. At our meeting, they just decided to keep assessments the same. And they proposed a 2.5% cost of living increase in salaries. And the rest of it was just adjusted according to kind of what we spent for insurance and different things for the year before. So, I just made it as a zeroed out budget, so. We haven't included anything on these bigger things coming up, cause we don't know what they're gonna cost yet.
That's gonna be my question. Has anything been addressed or you just waiting?
So Joe, who'd you get a bid from? On the single, who'd you get a bid from?
Jim Buck,
Okay.
he showed up this morning.
Did he give you a cost?
No, he gave the email address, so I give it to him, he'll email it.
Okay. So we've had, Miller Pipeline has quoted it. This is what Jessica was referring to as like $100,000 repair, so that's obviously not gonna be going with them. Langston Concrete, while I was driving up there, got their bid, and they bid $22,000. So what it is, it's the turnout going under that Sand Creek? Oak Creek? Okay, it has collapsed.
The spillway.
Yeah, so we're not able to turn out water at the, before it goes underneath Oak Creek / Sand Creek. There's a big sinkhole that's opened up where the pipes collapsed. It looks like in the past, it's probably a 30-inch conduit going between the ditch and Oak Creek. It looks like at one time somebody slid a smaller diameter pipe in and didn't do any real good grouting, and the exterior 30-inch pipe has eroded through, and the weight of the dirt coming through, eroded 30 inches, collapsed the 24-inch, and created a big sinkhole.
Is it gonna be able to be addressed before water is turned on in March?
Absolutely, yeah.
Wonderful.
So I got a better look at it today with this Jim, and it's the original pipe, it wasn't sleeved inside.
Oh, okay.
It's just collapsed, and it rotted, and it just caved in a little bit. It's what it is.
So that's probably the biggest cost that you're gonna be up against.
Yeah, it's gonna be, this guy did figure it'd be more than 10 grand. The way he's gonna be figuring it. Better than what email to you.
We'll get their bid and schedule a meeting to review bids and.
What's his name, Joe?
Jim Buck.
Jim?
I got the date from Marty. They showed up today.
So just so you guys all know, that's the location that the Duck Derby pulls the water for the race. And so, perhaps we could ask them to help us, since they make $50,000 annually on the Duck Derby. Maybe they'd be willing to pitch in a little bit.
Can't do the doctors, we're gonna fix this.
You don't have water.
Okay. All right, any other discussion on the proposed 2025 budget?
One other question. There's been discussion about, the Minnequa Dam and some sort of replacement of it. Multiple agencies are involved in that. I wanted to know if that was addressed in here, if there's a position of the Union Ditch Board on that. Or are you aware of it?
I can't say a whole lot. Yes, we're in discussions about replacement of the dam.
Okay.
And maybe replacement is not the right word, kind of a modification of the dam.
Modification.
To be a little more friendly to wildlife and boaters.
Okay.
With the amount of water that has to be diverted at the river at that point, the dam cannot fully go away. But boat ramps, fish ladders, that sort of thing, that is in discussion.
Thank you.
Welcome. Any other discussion on the proposed 2025 budget? All right, Do I have a motion to approve the proposed 2025 budget as it's presented?
Motion to approve the 2025 budget as presented.
Thank you.
Second.
A second, thank you. Proposed 2025 budget is approved as presented. All right, lastly, review of our delinquent stockholders list.
Okay, that's the last page, and if you look at it, there's 3 accounts on there right now that are 2 years. One of them, I'm pretty sure we'll get, that's happened before. The other 2, I'm just really not sure. I'll send them the regular bill first of the month and see what happens by the end of June. So, and if it doesn't get paid, we will advertise those for sale.
Where do you advertise them? Because not all of us read the little paper, which I'd love to, but I don't, the local one, but I never find it either.
Yeah, I advertised them in the Canyon paper, in the Daily Record.
Maybe
But I can start advertising them in a local paper now.
maybe us shareholders.
But I can let you
could get
know. I don't
heads
send
up.
them all out because that's a lot of
On
postage to, when people aren't interested. But, I can add your name to the list of, if you're interested. I can send them to you.
Could they be publicly posted, like on your board at City Hall?
Yeah.
Potentially do that.
Sure.
Can folks with agricultural interests get, like, first dibs or something on it before it gets converted to municipal?
It's not in the bylaws.
Okay.
They're sealed bids, right? When something comes up, it's a sealed bid.
Yeah. Except for Anthony Ademic that emailed it to me. I was like, okay, that's real private.
But the city historically was paying $800 per share, and this last round, they paid $2,500 per share, so.
Wow.
We paid the equivalent of what our cash in lieu of shares price is, which is set by the regional water board.
I had other bids that came in really high too, though. I had a couple that were 1,200. I was surprised when I opened them. I've never had, bids like that come in.
For additional clarity, cash in lieu of shares is what developers can pay to the regional water in order to not have to bring a share in, but the sole purpose of using that money then is to purchase the shares that we did not get when we allowed them to pay for cash in lieu of shares. So we paid the cash in lieu of shares price.
So essentially
that's an
market
option
rate.
still, cash
Yes.
in lieu?
Okay.
It's still the cheapest water anywhere.
All right. That brings us to the end of our agenda. Any other further discussion? If not, do I have a motion to adjourn the 2025 annual meeting of the Union Ditch shareholders?
Make a motion.
Motion and a second, please.
I second.
All right. Thank you all for your time today.